I now hand over the proceedings to Mr. Sujan Talwar, Chairman of the meeting. Thank you.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the 70th Annual General Meeting of Elantas Beck India Limited. I'm sorry that I'm not in Pune today, but I'm participating in this meeting through video conference from my hotel room in Delhi. As informed by the Company Secretary, Mr. Martin Babilas, Chairman, is unable to attend due to prior official commitments. The board has therefore nominated me in my capacity as an independent director and chairman of the Stakeholders Relationship Committee to chair this meeting. The time appointed for commencement has arrived. This meeting is being conducted through video conferencing and other means in accordance with the rules and circulars issued by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs and SEBI. Accordingly, participation by members is through the electronic platform provided specifically for this purpose. I further inform the members that since this meeting is being held through a virtual platform, the facility that you would otherwise have got for appointment of proxies is not applicable. However, to those of you who are corporate shareholders, you are entitled to appoint authorized representatives in accordance with Section 113 of the Companies Act. The company has already received a board resolution and authorization from one corporate shareholder appointing and authorizing its representative under 113 in respect of 59,45,761 equity shares representing 75% of the paid up equity share capital of the company. The requisite quorum being present, I call the 70th AGM to order. I would also like to inform the members that Mr. Martin Babilas and Mr. Ravindra Kumar are not participating, as I had already said, on account of prior commitments. For the benefit of members, I now request the directors participating in this meeting to introduce themselves and mention the location from where they are attending. Would you like to start?
Yeah.
I'm Usha Rajiv, Independent Director and the Chairman of the Audit Committee. I am joining this meeting from the registered office in Pune.
I'm Nanda Kumar Dekne. Good morning to you all. I'm an independent director and the chairman of the Nomination and Remuneration Committee. I'm attending this meeting from the registered office. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to 70th AGM. I'm the Managing Director for Elantas Beck India, Anurag Roy, joining from registered office in Pune.
Thank you. Apart from the main board directors, Sanjay Kulkarni, as you all know, the CFO, is also participating. Along with him, we have representatives of Pricewaterhouse Chartered Accountants LLP, the statutory auditors of the company, and Mr. Prajot Tungare, partner, Messrs. Prajot Tungare and Associates, the secretarial auditors and scrutinizers for this meeting. They are attending from their respective offices, I believe. I now request Ashutosh, Company Secretary, to brief the members on the guidelines and protocol to be followed for the smooth conduct of this meeting through video conference.
Thank you.
Ashutosh, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, for the benefit of members, let me inform you that the register of directors, KMPs, and their holdings and other required registers are open for inspection online. Now, I would like to take you through certain points regarding participation in this meeting, which have already been communicated to you via notes to the AGM notice. I request the members to kindly adhere to the same for smooth conduct of the meeting. The facility for joining the AGM through video conference or other audio video means is made available for the members on first come first served basis. All the members who have joined the meeting are by default placed on a mute mode by the host to avoid any disturbance arising from background noise. Once the question answer session starts, the name of the members who have registered as speakers will be announced one by one. The concerned speaker will thereafter be unmuted by the host to start speaking. If the speaker is not able to join through video for any reason, the speaker can speak through the audio mode. While speaking, the speaker is requested to use headphones so that he or she is clearly audible. Also, the speaker is requested to minimize any ambient noise and ensure that Wi-Fi is not connected to any other device so as to achieve maximum bandwidth. In case there is any connectivity problem at speaker's end, we would request next speaker to join. Once all speakers finish their speech, opportunity will be provided once again to those speakers who could not speak earlier due to connectivity issue. We would like to request the speaker to kindly limit their speech. The speakers who have sent questions in advance, in the interest of time, may not be kindly repeat the same. During the AGM, if any member faces any technical issue, he may contact the helpline number mentioned in the AGM notice. Pursuant to applicable provisions of Companies Act 2013, read with rules, form thereunder and SEBI listing regulations, the company had provided the facility of remote e-voting as per the timelines mentioned in the notice. The remote e-voting was concluded on 11th of May 2026 at 5 p.m. IST. Members attending the AGM and who have not voted using remote e-voting platform shall be able to cast their vote during the AGM. The window for e-voting has been activated and members can cast their votes simultaneously while participating in the proceedings of the meeting. Thank you so much. Now may I request Chairman to take this forward from this point.
Sorry, there's a little echo. Yeah, dear shareholder, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Dear shareholders, I would now like to brief you, like I did last year, on the company's performance and operations during this year against the backdrop of, we all know, a challenging economic and geopolitical environment. This year's annual report, as you would have seen, marks an important milestone for your company as Elantas Beck India Limited completes 70 years since its incorporation in 1956. Over the past 7 decades, your company has established a strong position in the field of electrical insulation materials and has become a trusted partner to industries that support modern infrastructure, manufacturing, electrification, mobility, and technology-led growth. This legacy indeed is a matter of pride. It is 7 decades. It reinforces the company's responsibility to preserve the company's strengths, respond to evolving market expectations, and continue creating value for all stakeholders. This year, 2025, was marked by volatility, as I said, in global supply chains, fluctuations in raw material prices, inflationary pressures, and of course, geopolitical tensions. These external factors had a direct bearing on the chemical sector, including through increased prices of feedstocks, freight, and energy costs, and constraints in availability of certain inputs and pressures on margin and, of course, working capital. But despite this environment, your company delivered a strong business performance. The company continued to grow in established electrical segments and expanded its focus on high growth areas such as electronics, high voltage applications, and e-mobility. Your company recorded a revenue of 84,780.93 lakhs, representing an increase of 13.27% over the last year. The company's margins stood at 28,101.60 lakhs, reflecting a growth of 18.91% over the previous year. This is despite all the difficulties that I just summarized earlier. The company also achieved its highest ever sales, demonstrating resilient execution, operational discipline, and most importantly, consumers' sustained confidence in us and our products. The recent Middle East crisis has, of course, disrupted global energy markets and supply chains, creating cost and availability challenges across the sector and many other sectors. Your company responded how? We took focused measures. We diversified sourcing of raw materials, critical at least, disciplined production planning. We continued our operations in a disciplined manner. We had to be prudent in pricing, yet we had to maintain long-standing customer relationships. You just cannot pass on all your troubles to somebody else, and that's what we have managed prudently and therefore increased both sales and profitability despite all of this. Now, the near-term volatility continues to require careful management. The underlying demand drivers for your company's products remain strong. The company remains focused on navigating current challenges with agility while positioning itself for long-term sustainable and resilient growth. During the year under review, you remember last year we had spoken about one role. This year, your company successfully has completed the integration of One Roll India's resin operations in India. What has this done? It has strengthened the company's technology base and broadened now our portfolio. What does that result in? Higher contributions from our prime electrical insulation business. What does the company's team do? It has to continue and does focus on anticipating. That is key. It is anticipating industry requirements, delivering value. Without value, we just become a simple commodity, easy to be copied. So we have to have value-added products. We continue our strong leadership and we enjoy application expertise. And of course, as you know, with the expansions taking place, the local manufacturing capabilities are always there. What has also done is we have implemented SAP across the organization. This, as you know, has improved integration, operational visibility, and the quality of data-led decision-making on key functions. Data is important. If we don't have that data, it becomes very, very difficult to assess. What that means is that the company's research and development and continuing progress in process technologies, they are supported by efficient execution even during this demanding year. The company remains focused on new product development and the installation of additional manufacturing assets. What does that allow us? It allows us to address emerging applications and customer requirements in a timely and effective manner. Looking ahead, the markets served by your company continue to offer strong long-term potential. The company's material support sectors, such as, of course, electronics, now e-mobility, and of course, the energy and power sector, all of which are closely aligned, as we keep hearing from our leaders within politics and everywhere. It is aligned with India's industrial development, our infrastructure expansion, and most importantly, our energy transition. The company also sees other opportunities in data centers, battery energy storage systems, and more sustainable material technologies. Innovation will remain central to the company's strategy. Work in areas such as water-based technologies reflects the company's focus on improving environmental performance while maintaining the reliability and technical performance already expected from its materials. At the same time, your company is evaluating future-ready manufacturing expansion through greenfield development and greater automation to support the requirements of customers and strengthen operational resilience. What does your company do? It continues to monitor market trends in order to sustain and grow its business. Demand for the company's products is expected to be supported by growth in the sectors in which it participates, along with, of course, the broader development and relevant government initiatives. The company's sustained focus on its business lines over recent years has resulted in new product introductions, new projects, and the addition of customers. We now come to equally important parts of our business, which is our corporate social responsibilities, our duties under ESG and safety. We recognize as a company that responsible corporate citizenship is integral to long-term value creation. As part of its corporate social responsibility, the company has continued to engage with the community and contribute to areas such as educational support, sports and community development, skill development, and vocational learning. The company has contributed to the Prime Minister's Fund, which supports relief efforts in relation to natural disasters. On the ESG front, the company recognizes the importance of environmental stewardship. Its efforts are directed towards minimizing ecological impact through resource-efficient processes, waste reduction initiatives, and the adoption of renewable energy sources. In the electrical insulation sector, what our company desires is to be a leader in sustainability and to promote responsible and sustainable actions within its competitive landscape. The company's ESG roadmap includes what? Reduction in greenhouse emissions, enhanced energy efficiency, providing a safe and healthy workplace, and promoting diversity amongst its many priorities. Safety remains, however, at the forefront of the company's operations and processes. The company continues to identify opportunities to improve its capabilities in quality, environment, health, and safety. During the year under review, your company received significant recognition for its commitment to safety, supply chain risk management, and environmental excellence. The company received the ET India Supply Chain Award in the risk mitigation category conferred by the Economic Times in recognition of its structured approach to identifying, managing, and mitigating supply chain risks. The company has received another award, that is the Safe Tech National Award, supported by the Directorate of Industrial Safety and Health and Maharashtra Fire Services for excellence in safety and fire production. These recognitions acknowledge the company's consistent commitment to maintaining high standards of safety for its workforce and the company's operations. The company will continue to accord the highest priority, as I said earlier, to safety. Its programs are designed and regularly reviewed by board and the managers to identify opportunities to enhance safety, reduce waste, and of course, conserve natural resources. It is time for us to acknowledge and also say thank you. Before I conclude this address, I want to express my sincere appreciation to all my colleagues at Elantas Beck India Limited and to all my fellow board members for their continued guidance, commitment, and valuable contribution. I also thank the Altana management for its continued and unstinting support on all fronts, regardless of the times that one is going through. On behalf of the board, I place on record our sincere appreciation for the support extended by our customers, suppliers, business associates, bankers, regulators, government authorities. As I said, all stakeholders. I also want to place on record our appreciation for our dear statutory auditors, Pricewaterhouse, as they complete their tenure this year and rotate out as they are required under law at the conclusion of this AGM. So thank you very much. Finally, I wish to thank you, most importantly, our shareholders, for your trust, for your confidence, and the interest you continue to show in the affairs of the company over the years. I have come to the end of the speech. To remind people what the agenda items are today, I will just set them out. The first, as you know, is adoption of the financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2025, together with the report of the Board of Directors and the statutory auditors. There is a declaration of dividend of rupees 7.50 per equity share for the year 2025. The appointment of a director in place of Mr. Ravindra Kumar, who, although retires by rotation and being eligible, offers himself for reappointment. Appointment, as I said, of Chartered Accountants, Messrs. K.A. and Associates LLP, as the statutory auditors of the company to hold office for a term of 5 consecutive years. The ratification and remuneration payable to Dhananjay V. Joshi and Associates, cost auditors for the financial year ending 31st December 2025, and reappointment of Mr. Nand Kumar Dekne as an independent director of the company for a term of 5 consecutive years. These resolutions are being put to vote through the remote e-voting process and e-voting during the meeting. And because of that, there is no proposing or seconding and wasting more of your time on these technicalities of these resolutions. I will now hand you over back to the Company Secretary, Mr. Ashutosh Kulkarni, to continue with the proceedings of the meetings. He has explained to you that the speakers who have provided their names and questions will be prioritized if, hopefully not, but if there is a technical hitch on that, we will try and address it as soon as possible and revert back to the speakers. Over to you, Ashutosh.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I request the shareholders who have given their names to speak at the AGM to express their views and ask queries on the working of the company. As we have got 14 speakers, I would request each to speak about this on this for not more than 3 minutes. All the questions received before the AGM and the questions which will be asked by the members will be responded after all speakers have completed their speaking and asking their queries. With this, now I request the host to unmute the first speaker, that is Ms. Lekha Shah.
Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, ma'am. You're audible.
Thank you, sir. Respected Chairman, sir, Board of Directors, and my fellow members, good morning and regards to everyone. Myself, Lekha Shah. I'm joining this meeting from Mumbai. First of all, I'm sincerely thanking our Company Secretary Asantosh ji for extending very good investor services and also sending in the AGM notice well in time. I found the AGM notice and I'm delighted to say it's so beautiful, full of colors and facts and figures in place. Chairman sir, your opening remark so insightful and comprehensive that you have already addressed everything I had in mind. Sir, I pray to God that He always shower His blessing upon you. Sir, I would like to thank all the personnel of company for receiving awards and recognition by your plan during the year 24 and 25. And also, I'm glad the company is doing very well in the field of CSR activities. Chairman sir, I would like to ask you questions. My first question is, what is the total number of employees and how many women employees are working in our company? Sir, I hope the company will continue video conference meeting in future. So I would like to say I strongly and wholeheartedly support all the resolutions for today's meeting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, thank you. So I request the host to kindly unmute the second speaker, that is Mr. Satish Shah.
Mr. Shah?
हेलो चेयरमैन सर, मैं मिसेस सतीशा बात कर रही हूँ. He also support all the resolutions for today's meeting. Thank you, Chairman sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So then I will request the host to unmute the next third speaker, that is Mr. Asfi Bensani.
Sir, can you see me and hear me?
Yes, sir.
Chairman, sir, I am Aspi from Bombay. Sir, I thank the company secretary, Mr. Ashutosh Kulkarni, for giving me an opportunity to speak. Sir, I congratulate the management on good results. However, on going into details, it is noticed that profit for first 3 quarters was flat. Only due to increase in profit in quarter 4, annual profit has increased. So reason for Q4 profit increasing so much, is it due to other income? And will this increased margin be maintained in 2026? The increased margin is almost same as margin for year ending December 24. See, during 2024, we had purchased assets of bond roll for rupees 53 crores. So how much revenue and PBT was generated from these assets during 25? A company should not contribute to Prime Minister's Relief Fund because there is no accountability. They don't even want to give the details of what they are doing with the money in RTI Act. So please do not contribute in future to this fund. You can do yourself CSR. So and do not split and do not give a bonus. Let the price go up. So our price had crossed 10,000 rupees, but now again it's come down below 10,000. So please do not give a bonus and split. Let the price go up. MRF has never given any split and bonus, and the price has increased so much to 1,40,000 or so. So thank you very much and all the best for the future.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your all kind words. Now I request the host to kindly unmute the fourth speaker, that is Mr. Yogesh Patil.
I'm audible?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much and good morning, everyone. Again, thank you very much for giving the opportunity. So without wasting time, I just asking the same question, straight on questions. Maybe what previous speaker said regarding the anemic growth over let's say 1 year, but I'm saying take it last 10 years, CAGR is very, very low compared to, it is almost equal to or lower than nominal GDP. So we are in a high growth industry where you see the user industry, transformer, motor, automotive, even enamel wire companies are growing higher than us, and we are still at lower side. Is there any, are we losing market share? Are we facing competition? Something like that, or our relevance is lower compared to what we see and we expect every time? That is question number 1. And second, additionally, we acquired 30-acre land in Omkareshwar. So is there any, what are the products we are going to launch there? What is the current capacity utilization? And how do we grow, aspire to grow in coming days? Because in electronics and even in electricals, opportunities are huge, companies are growing, but unfortunately, we are not able to participate in that growth. I'm not asking a 2-quarter, 3-quarter growth, but if I see the history last, let's take 10 years, I completely agree. The power sector growth was anything, but if you see even in last 5 years, we are not competing. Not the growth is not similar in proportion to the user industry. And what is our recent basically given the global shift towards EVs and what are the new products and how much business is coming from only EV? Because again, electric vehicles are not new to India, but it has grown last 2-3 years. But even prior to that, COVID, this industry was growing. So that's it from my side. And again, we need as an investor, we need a clarity. We are launching so many products, and how many new products are contributing to the growth basically. Because I'm attending this meeting from last almost 10 years, and every meeting we give some reason I completely agree, is a more of a formality. But we can, this time my request is slightly give more clarity. I will not ask any other question from here, because we are not matching. By introducing new product, we are hardly beating the nominal GDP. That's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your questions, Mr. Yogesh Patil. Now we'll move to the next speaker. I will request the host to kindly unmute the fifth speaker, that is Mr. Shreya Lonkar.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
So thank you, everyone, for allowing us to participate. So in addition to the questions, Mr. Roy, that I've given, I just have a couple of more questions that I will add on to that. One is that if you can give us an idea of what is the Elantas Beck division globally, what is the revenue scale, and what do they spend on R&D as percentage of revenues, if you can give us some idea, and how that has changed over the last 2, 3, or 4, 5 years, that would be helpful. The second thing is, if you can offer your comments on how Elantas Beck India, the viewpoint on Elantas Beck India has changed, or attitude towards Elantas Beck India has changed for the Elantas Beck Global. We do understand that at some point in the last 2 years, there was some literature of Altana, where there was a conversation about cross-divisional utilization of your facilities, which was quite encouraging to hear that the other divisions of Altana are looking to cooperate and grow together. If you can just give us some thoughts onto that, where have they progressed? What are the plans into the future, to the extent you can disclose? The second part, the other question was, given the near-term geopolitical issue that we are at, could you just offer your comments as to what are the problems that you are facing on the ground, supply chain? What is the kind of inflation that you think you'll be able to pass on in an environment like this to your consumer, to your clients? That would be helpful. The other question was, we've implemented SAP this year. Is there any hiccup that happened which has a ramification in the FY26 numbers? Stock out, inventory issues, inventory reconciliation, any write-offs, anything that you can, that caused that disturbance given the migration. The last remains a permanent request from us as shareholders, sir, that I would request again that even if we can host a con call 6 monthly, I think it will just help us appreciate the journey of Elantas Beck much more, because AGMs tend to be pretty much a one-way communication. So many times, many of the questions, despite being answered, remains unanswered. So just that request. The second is for plant visit. I believe in Ankleshwar, a lot has changed in Ankleshwar over the last many years. And, if you can give us a plant visit, probably we will appreciate what you do and how you do it. And just the last request was, these questions, as I told you in AGM, it's pretty much a one-way street where we ask questions and you respond. I would just request your generosity in giving us as much color as you can to the questions we've already asked. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Roy.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shailonkar. Now, with this, I request next speaker, Mr. Himanshu Trivedi. Kindly join.
Hello, sir. I'm audible. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes. Good morning, all of you. Respected Chairman Sujan Talwar, CFO Sanjay Kulkarni, other board director, sitting on dice. Myself, Himanshu from Gujarat. First of all, I thank you to our company secretary, Sanjay Kulkarni, who is Asutosh Kulkarni, who is sending the soft copy of, or even the hard copy of the AGM report, well enough, which is full of information, practical and place, which is easy to follow and easy to understand. So I am thankful to you and your entire secretary team. The report is nicely prepared. All corporate governance are covered in the annual gender report. I extended my heartfelt appreciation. Is wonderful, extended heartily appreciate is beautiful communication by Asutosh Kulkarni as a secretary. I have all the question and query sent through the email well enough with the save the time of AGM and give the opportunity to speak my rest speakers. Sir, still I have few questions. What is the market share we have in domestic and international market? My second query, what we will do with the profit sharing ratio coming financial year? And what are the key properties of our specialty chemical? What are the specific applications of this chemical and who are the leading manufacturer supply of this chemical? I wish good luck and bright future for coming financial year. Thank you to allow me to speak. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Trivedi, for the kind words. Really appreciated. Now I request the host to kindly unmute the next speaker, Mr. Ravi Mehta, seventh speaker.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for this hosting this AGM. And one question was actually a follow-up of last year, so that we had asked for a capacity number. If you can actually share the total capacity of Ankleshwar and Pimpri together, and what's the kind of debottlenecking happening there, and where will we get to? Another question was also related to capacity. So last AGM, we understand that you were expecting EC for the Bharuch facility in 6-7 months is what we've been told. So what is the status there? I heard the chairman talking about installing new capacity. So wanted to understand where are we in that project? We've not heard anything on the EC. And what kind of capacities can the new land parcel hold? Would like to understand the roadmap. Maybe could be a long roadmap, but how are you thinking of putting up the capex in different blocks, in different phases, over what timeline? That will help us understand. Take a longish view, like 5-7 year view. That was on the capacity side. One was that there was some arrangement with a group company, Actega, where we make some products for them. So wanted to understand, is it more like a job work kind of an arrangement, or it's a make and sell kind of an arrangement? What's the size of this opportunity and how it can become post Bharuch facility coming up? Given the understanding that the group company also has an adjoining land. Then one question was more on the color of earnings. So we constantly talk of moving up the value chain and adding the value-added products to our mix. But as shareholders, we have no clue how this mix of base grades and value-added grades have been in the past. How is the mix moving, and where we foresee 3 to 5 years down the line? So some color in how this mix is changing and it's about to change will help us appreciate the color of earnings and the quality of earnings better. And any ballpark view in terms of delta and realizations and margins between these grades, so we can appreciate how the earnings are expected to move if we move up the curve on the value-added stuff. Yeah, and had a follow-up on this West Asia crisis, but I think it was covered. You may just answer on the disruption that you've been facing, I think, and how you're preparing to navigate this challenge. Yeah, thank you. I've already emailed another detailed set of questions. Would appreciate if you can, take time and answer it in detail. Would be helpful. Thank you.
Yes, yes, we got your question. So we will answer during next session once we got all the questions there. Thank you so much. Now we will move to next speaker, Mr. Vishwanath Modi. I request moderator to kindly unmute.
Hi, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you audible.
So, sir, I've already sent my list of questions. Just a few that I wanted to reiterate. First is on capacity in Ankleshwar. What is the current utilization? How much can we bottleneck? Basically, what the previous speaker shareholder asked. And on the GPCB matter, sir, it's been over 7 years. So, is the new facility Baroch in any way being planned as a backup or a replacement if in the next few years Ankleshwar does not resolve? Or is it purely incremental? Just wanted to understand how we're thinking about that. On the innovation and tech transfer, there have been multiple transfers from the global platform, especially after the Wondol acquisition. So wanted to understand how much of this is currently generating revenue. How much percentage of revenue is coming from the products launched in, say, 3 to 5 years? And third, specifically on the engineering electronics segment, if we assume that the Wondol consolidation has added about 40 crores of top line in CY25, then the math would suggest that the organic growth is close to zero. So wanted to understand if I'm thinking about this right, what is holding back the organic growth and how we see our market share, exports and value-added mix evolving over the next few years. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Modi. Yeah. So we'll move to the next speaker. Kindly request the host to unmute next speaker, 9th number, Mr. Ashok Jain.
Hello, yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Oh, good morning, sir. Sir, our company has recently cited lack of demand on Parivesh website as a primary reason for poor capacity utilization post capacity enhancement undertaken several years ago at our Ankleshwar plant. I think we have applied for amended clearance because we have two land parcels there and we want to expand in sector 1. The annual report mentions YOY volume growth of just 1924 metric tons. That is, whereas the planned cumulative investment in the brownfield and greenfield plants will increase the capacity by about 400% in next couple of years. At this rate of 2,000 metric tons of volume growth every year, it will take us decades to fully utilize the enhanced capacity. Therefore, as shareholders, could we know which sectors is the company going to focus on to sell tens of thousands of metric tons every year of the planned expanded capacity? Sir, as shareholders, we would appreciate clear, transparent answers rather than the diplomatic ones, sir. And second, sir, in Q2, the raw material prices have shot up a lot because of the Iran, the West Asia crisis. Are we able to pass on without a major time lag to our customers? Is there a good demand for our products? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I request the host to kindly unmute the 10th speaker, Mr. Dilip Jain.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. With the government's electronic component manufacturing scheme, ECMS, firmly in place now, large-scale private capex is being deployed in multi-layer PCB plants and lithium-ion cell manufacturing for EV batteries. So, have we started exploring tie-ups with the key players for long-term contracts for our Flex Lam and other products from the Wondol Elantas combined range? My second question, sir. West Asia conflict has led to feedstock prices for epoxy resins and other resins and other electrical resins to shoot up by in between 40 to 70% globally. To what extent are we able to pass through the same to our customers currently? Our segment 2, electronic resins and engineering, 9-month current year sales stood at about 164 crores versus 123 crores in the same period last calendar year, which is definitely stellar 33% growth in this segment. So I just wanted to understand how much of this growth came from an increase in purely volume. And my last question, sir, is about a specific product called Allotherm. Elantas' Allotherm wire enamel is facing the competition from PEEK, introduced by Austria's HPW Metalwork GmbH. And this is for CTC windings, that is a continuously transponding conductors. The annual report mentions there's a surge in demand for this particular from this particular sector. So could you throw some light on how, exactly we face such kind of competition? And in this specific case, how is Allotherm superior to PEEK? And how are we marketing the same to our clients when we actually pitch in for selling a particular product? And so lastly, I just wanted to understand NSE listing has been done for a script, but there was no shareholder communication. So don't know what happened. Was there some technical glitch or whatever? Do let us know, sir. Thank you very much. All the very best.
Mr. Dilip, can you just repeat the last question?
Yeah. The NSE listing of eBill, I believe. Yeah, but it was probably not communicated.
Actually, I'll tell you that the listing is on for only trading purpose. That is done voluntarily by NSE.
Okay, I see. Okay, all right, okay.
So they have already done that activity. It's not done, but it is done by them.
Was there some criteria because of which they voluntarily did it on us?
That's they didn't inform us, but that's the criteria they have independently.
Okay, I see. Okay, no issues. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you. I look forward to the responses. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dilip Jain. We will move to the next speaker, Mr. Sudhir Golecha, 11th speaker number.
Hello, am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Yeah. Good morning, Anurag sir, and all members present in the meeting. I hope Susan Clayton ma'am, Martin Babila sir, and Ravindra Kumar sir are all doing well. As requested by the management, we will not repeat the questions already sent. Apart from that, we just have a couple of questions. My first question: during charging and discharging in an EV, the thermal interface material changes its shape. It affects the battery health. Liquid gap filler and phase change material would solve this issue. Do we manufacture them? My next question: I have read somewhere that we are also into intumescent battery coating. Will it find its place in giga battery cell manufacturing plants of Tata's, Reliance, and Jindal's? Have we started manufacturing them? Okay, last question. Seeking your personal view, Anurag sir. So, do you believe Elantas Beck India Limited is approaching a major growth inflection point, or do you think its products are too niche to find meaningful volumes in a country like India? So, we would love to know whether you personally believe that time for Elantas Beck India Limited has come. So, a last request: we as shareholders get only one chance to interact. We request the management to be specific and quantitative in the replies. As questions are sent in advance, we hope all our questions are answered comprehensively. Thank you. We look forward to a detailed response. Thank you, sir. Uh, and you can skip speaker number 12 and 13 as all the questions are already sent.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We'll answer the questions. We received your questions, Mr. Goreja. So we'll answer one by one once we conclude this question session. Yeah. Then I will move to the next speaker. We'll skip the 12th and 13th speaker numbers. So hence you are requested. So we'll move to the next speaker. I request moderator to kindly unmute 14th speaker. That's Mr. Henin Bagadia.
Hello.
Yes, Henin. Yeah, Mr. Henin. Yeah.
So I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible.
So thank you for the opportunity, sir. I'll cover the questions and not repeat the ones that's asked. So coming to the first section, that is the current issues that we are facing in West Asia. So if you can just describe how different is the current issue versus 2018 and 2022 when the oil price spiked, and also on the availability of the RM materials. So in past, we had also discontinued certain low margin contracts because the revision was not possible. So in the current situation, has we faced any kind of force majeure, or have we kind of discontinued any existing contracts considering the profitability part? So coming to the second part of that, there could be a possible diesel price hike, which could also hike the logistical cost. So in the other cost part, other than the RM cost, do you see any significant increase, and how do these other cost passing actually work? And if we see the current margins, so is that a new normal, or is that a peak cycle? And if you could also just give some more clarity and understanding on the gross margins and EBITDA margins for the the near future as the new products and the facility ramp up actually comes up. So coming to the Chinese competition, so what percentage of revenue and the products, especially say in the small industrial motor or the home appliance segment, is under Chinese competition or the Korean competition? So if you could describe how the competition we are facing on the Elantas range that we launched about some years back, because the Chinese have been aggressively expanding on the thermal paste side. Is this competition on our products, or is it on a different segment? If you could just give some more understanding there. So coming to Reliance's new energy initiative, so they are coming up with a lot of new products, not just on the BESS and the solar, but on the complete integrated solution, which could impact the entire ecosystem. Which could also include products like carbon reinforced polymers or the polyolefins, which could be competing our liquid resins going in the solar, that is the monomer for the top one side. So if you could just briefly describe, is that a competition which is very serious for us and the entire ecosystem? So if you see the last 15 years, we have not seen any new major entrant either in India or globally, which could actually challenge the incumbent position, because there is a lot of OEM validation that is required. So are you seeing any new significant competition coming here, because the margin profile is actually going up for a lot of new products, which is actually serving the niche sectors and the new age application? So coming to the next part, in the electrical insulation part, we are actually seeing a shift from the 400 volt to the 800 V architecture globally, and also the higher volt architecture for the CVs and buses. So there the competition is less. So so do we have products in that particular category in the India business, or is it just with the parent? And if you could also give some more understanding on the products around the corona resistant polyamides that we have. So with the Von Rolls resin insulation that has been integrated, which the company claims, does the company have a sole supply status with any major OEM, because they were predominantly in the solid resin part and we were in the liquid resin? And have you got any audits and certification where it is completely fault free and the OEM does not require any regressive testing from now on? And if you could also allude as to, have you got any major orders in the combined integrated supplies? So where do we stand on the R&D initiative in the automotive space? Have we been in the R&D phase for a lot of companies in the R&D phase for getting new products, especially on the e-mobility side, be it in the SUVs, buses, or on the truck side? Because I think so our products actually go into the battery pack as well as the DC chargers. And also the DC chargers in the government is coming up with initiatives to make it here. We do have a product applications there. So are you seeing any major tie-ups where the regressive testing is happening right now, and probably we'll see some orders going forward? So if we come to the current situation, there is a lot of shortage of transformers. It is not stemming from our part of supply chain, but from a different part of supply chain. So if the capacity ramps up globally, do you see some significant order wins? Because in Asia Pacific, India is set to double its capacity on the transformer side in the next 5 years. So any major framework orders you see coming here? And also on the high-speed rail project or on the rail or the nuclear division, do we have any products there? Because on the nuclear side, there are radiation hardened product that we need to provide, which protects the product, which protects the transformers from radiation damage. And this is something our parent has it, but I'm not sure if we have the TOT. So if we have POC or vendor audits that we've got for the PW or the FBR plant from NPCIL. You could give some information there. So coming to the electronics and the engineering material segment, so within the PCB and sensor space, what percentage of our products are very niche and unique and does not face any Chinese competition? So if I also see your engineering material division, we've got a semiconductor and a ESD flooring segment, which is actually very niche, and I don't see a lot of domestic competition there. So if there is any domestic competition, could you also name them and how significant are they? Because the electrostatic flooring is a very niche, and it could be for a lot of semiconductor plants which are just coming up in the R&D and the main manufacturing facility side. Also, we have got some specialized hygiene flooring solution which we provide to the pharma players. So if you could give some understanding, is it on the CRDMO space or is it on the manufacturing space, and how niche are we there, and are we facing any kind of competition? So if we see the encapsulation gel and the TAM for this particular market is actually growing because of the telecom application. So do we have these product range, or is it with the parent and we are expecting some TOT in the near future if the Indian manufacturing for telecom gears kicks up? So also on the conformal coating space, this actually has defense and aerospace. Although your annual report does not mention this particular sector, do we have plans to get into this space, because it's a very niche space, but the OEM vendor cycle approvals are pretty long. So if you could provide some more understanding here. So coming to the last segment, that is the R&D side. So the parent has alluded, and they have also appreciated our R&D center in Pune, and they've called it a global hub, and we are also part of a lot of Atlanta's R&D initiative. So how does how much of the global R&D research work is actually happening from the Pune center, and how do you see this going forward? And can we actually move it from a cost center to a profit center, where the center could probably have some charges or some fees or royalty which could be billed and become a profit center? So if we see the TOT part, which are the white spaces you still think are existing in the company right now, and you see that TOT can happen in the near future from the parent or from any of the associate companies, which we actually saw recently from Italy? And if we see a TOT, how does the royalty and license fee agreement actually work? Is there a one-time license fee or a combination with royalty? If you could give some more understanding there. So in case of exports, historically we haven't seen a very big number. So will the new facility add to a very big number, because this is a very big land parcel? And also, as some of the previous speakers alluded, if you could give the phase-wise capex number, the utilization, and how do you plan to fund this capex? Is it going to be 100% internal accruals or with debt, or do we see parent support, or probably even some vendor financing if you see any anchor vendor willing to take up a large part of your facility in terms of products? So if we had done an acquisition some years back in the Huber case on the wire enamel side. So if you could give some more understanding on the non-compete and the years of non-compete that we have with the Huber or the current new Murugappa group, which is the owner of it. And what specific IPs and technology were a part of it, because the manufacturing facility wasn't a part. It was just IP, tech, and customers, if I'm not mistaken. So, and if we, after the Wandroll acquisition, we actually see we become a full stack solution provider. So if you could also give some more understanding on how the new asset turnover or the integrated facilities would work out, and how does this actually position our company in the entire framework of the competition, and how niche can we actually be there? And lastly, in the case of CAPEX, we actually have done CAPEX where we actually put on new manufacturing facility, as well as we put CAPEX to get into the European standards such as ZLD, green power. So is there any ROI for these extra CAPEX that we do, say the industry 4.0 or the automation facility? Is there an ROI for that? Is it a customer requirement? Is it based on a European regulation where we actually need to control our emissions?
And also with these new facilities coming up to European standards and also the European FTA, which is almost signed and done and just waiting for implementation, how do you see India listed company as a sourcing hub? So thank you for the opportunity, and I do appreciate some good answers and insights to the industry as well as the company.
Yeah, Mr. Anil, thank you so much. We have also received your question, so MD sir is going to talk about that, that's for sure. Thank you all the speakers. I think this was the last speaker. We have received also a few questions on email from Mr. Chetan Desai, one of the shareholder of the company. So we will also address that during discussion. Just a request to moderator, if anything, any speaker left, kindly check to be addressed.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. So with this now, I request Mr. Anurag Roy to respond to the queries of the shareholders.
Yeah, thank you, Ashutosh, and thank you for very insightful questions. I'm looking forward to answering most of it. So the first speaker was Lekha Shah and Satish Shah. They both were together. First and foremost, I wanted to thank Lekha ji for your very motivating and inspirational words. We appreciate your support always. Your first question was on the employee strength. How many employees do we have at Elantas Beck India? So currently we stand at 204. That's the employee numbers. These are the full-time employees. And out of that, almost 9% or 18 employees are women. So our diversity numbers stands at 9%. And you asked for, these virtual conferences in future as well. Obviously, we would continue to do these conferences, and as many other shareholders and speakers mentioned that they need more interactions. We'll definitely look into it if we could have, every 6 months, these interactions or other forums where we can address these questions more in detail. Coming to the third speaker, Aspi, there were 3 or 4 questions. The first question was on the bond roll part, where you asked what has been our revenues from bond roll integration last year. At an overall level, I would say 50 crores was our revenue. There are 2 channels which add to the revenue within the high voltage market. One is the resin piece, which very well integrates into our existing resin portfolio. So roughly 80% of the revenue came from the resin part of the business last year, and the 10 crores came from the tapes, which also go as an integrated insulation solutions along with resin in the high voltage market. Other question you asked about on the CSR front, it was a very good suggestion that just giving to the Prime Minister Relief Fund may not be the most ideal way to use the sustainability fund. We made a note of it last year. I'm very happy to say that with the support from all the board of directors and the teams, last year almost 85% of our spend was in different initiatives and activities on the CSR side, and only 15% of the fund went to the Prime Minister Relief schemes. And we continue to look for opportunities where we could have, specific project-based approach on the CSR. And also for all the shareholders at global Eltana level and even at Elantas India level, there are 2 areas within the CSR where we heavily focus on. One is the education part, and mostly if we could provide education for underprivileged or women candidates, that's clearly one of the key areas where we would continue to work on the CSR side. And then other is, the healthcare aspect or offering financial support, again, which goes back to the education sector. So we'll continue to work on it, and I can assure you in the coming year or years, we will completely move away from Prime Minister Relief Fund, and we'll continue to focus more on very project-based CSR activities. There was a question on the profitability that the first 3 quarters, the profits were more or less stable as compared to the previous years. And the fourth year, there was a profit increase. See, clearly in the fourth quarter, there was a slight increase in other income due to mark-to-market, particularly from the equity markets, where we also have some investments. But I would like to mention, and as esteemed chairman mentioned at the beginning, that the last year there was huge volatility in the market. Over and above the volatility, as you realize, some of our markets, particularly in the low voltage or in some cases the wire enamel segment, is also highly cyclical, which is also dependent on the heat, I would say, or the summer season, because it goes into the consumer applications like fans, air conditioning, so on and so forth. So the last year in 2025, at least for a few months, we have seen erratic rain patterns in the country. And also, the summers were relatively short, which had an impact on our the top lines as well as eventually on the margins. But I'm very proud and happy to say that despite these volatile situations, your company, in fact, maintained those margins. And at an overall level, if you see, our margins improved by almost 18.9 or 19% as compared to the previous years. If I now move on to the next speaker, Yogesh Patil, the questions, initial questions were on the capacities. What is our installed capacities and what has been our utilization? And I think there were a lot of questions from other shareholders on the capacities as well. I would say, in terms of the installed capacities, right now at Ankleshwar, we have almost 35,000 capacities on annualized basis. And at Pimpri plant, we are close to 14,600 metric ton capacities. And if you look at the utilization at an overall level at Ankleshwar as well as Pimpri plant, we are above 80-85% at an overall level. But if you look at the utilization at a reactor or a product level, there are certain schemes, the manufacturing schemes where our utilization level are above 95%. And, some of those schemes, manufacturing schemes, cannot be even debottlenecked further because of the structural challenges in further debottlenecking. So at an overall level, 85% plus utilizations at individual scheme or the product level. In few cases, it varies from 75% to 95% levels. The second question was on capacity expansion, and I would say, a lot of you asked that particular question. That's also strategically for Elantas Beck India, one of the most important operational strategy going forward for us. How do we further debottleneck or increase our capacities in the next 3 to 5 years? Clearly, from the demand or the market side, we are seeing huge amount of growth potentials in the end markets or the segment which we play in. And if you look at the supply side or our current capacities, we are almost at 80-85% plus utilization. So there is a very clear case on the capacity expansion. And in light of that, we had bought almost 1.5-2 years back the land parcel in the Dahej, where we were foreseeing the future expansion in a phased manner in line with the growth in the market. So that plan is currently completely on. In fact, there's a huge focus to get those capacities on board. And I'm slightly digressing from the question from the Yogesh, but to give a full picture on this particular topic, we have been, navigating some of the compliances challenges from getting the environmental clearances on the land parcel, which we have in the industrial park. and we are still awaiting the environmental clearance on that land parcel. And those challenges are predominantly coming from the industrial park revocation issues, which started hitting the park sometime early last year. And they are still working with the authorities along with us and the other players who are invested in the industrial park to get those revocations removed or amend their EC so that we all can start investment there. So that is causing a little bit of a delay for us to get our capacities on board quickly because we are already working at very high utilizations in our current plants. So as a remediational plan, we are actively focusing on debottlenecking to the extent possible in the existing setups. We would also take the capexes very soon to expand in Ankleshwar at a very fast pace, I would say, so that we have capacities up and running, say, in the next 4 to 6 quarters. That's our plan B. Till some of these, complexities or which have arisen because of the compliance issues in our land parcel. So that is on the capacity piece. There was a question why the revenue growth, in 2025 has been decoupled from strong industry tailwinds in the power transformer, motor and automotive industry. And in Q4, again, you asked about why there's only 7% growth or eventually the market share loss for us. So here, and I think I also wanted to mention that if you look at our revenue growth in the last year, it was roughly 13.27%. With this revenue growth, the volume growths were close to 6%, which looks little muted. But I wanted to mention here that, from 24 to 25, in fact, we increased our market share in all of the segments. And later on, while addressing some of the questions, I'll go into the details on wire enamel, electronics, and LV, where we have a dominant market share. And over the last 2 to 3 years, there has been an increase in the market share, even in 2025. The available strategically relevant markets for us in these businesses are limited to the extent of, how much of aluminum enameled wires are going into consumer application vis-a-vis copper, because we are primarily selling into the copper segment. It is also a function of, amount of insulation, the paper insulation that goes into it. So when you look at the end industry growth, say if it's growing by double digit, that also includes these markets, the paper insulation markets, the aluminum markets that grows into, the consumer industry, and also some of, I would say, the low margin markets where a lot of enamel wire imports are also coming in from China. So, if you look at the full market, there are few components of the market which do not qualify as strategically relevant markets for Elantas Beck. Having said that, I would say, our approach and our connect with the customers in the applications where we have a dominant market share position, and we continue to increase, percentage share points there. And since our share is quite dominant, I am talking about, 50-55% market share, say in wire enamel, 60% plus in, say, low voltage. Electronics, we are still in a nascent stage of 20%. Increasing 1-2% market share also is a huge, or commendable job done by the Elantas team. So I would say that's the story on the volume side. On revenue side, we continue to, strengthen our tech services, support services, based on which we could command some premium from our customers, and that's how our revenue and margin profiles also goes up. Now, if I move on to the other question on the growth, which you talked about in the power and automotive segment over the last 2 years, there I wanted to mention that in the power sector, particularly in the last year, we have seen huge demand coming from continuously transposed conductors, the CTC conductors. And for that conductor, we are supplying the PVF, polyvinyl formal products. It's coating products which go into those transformers or conductors, where we have seen increased demand and continue to see growth potentials in the coming years. Historically, there have been 2 or 3 players in that market, but what we have seen are increased capacities and new players coming in the PVF segment, which is giving a good push or good opportunity for growth for us in the power generation and distribution segment. On the e-mobility side, you asked about how much percentage of the revenues came at an overall level came from e-mobility. So we stand at roughly 4 to 5%. It's still a small base. On the e-mobility side, if I may take a minute to explain, it's a market in India which is waiting to explode. And eventually, as I personally think, India will have to follow the China way. If you look at what happened to e-mobility in China, out of the top 10 companies there, 9 companies are all, domestic, and the market is exploding there, particularly the 4-wheeler market. In India, the e-mobility scenario currently is that a lot of 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers are working on e-mobility, but the 4-wheeler penetration of e-mobility is still in very single digit. So we are leveraging the opportunity, and we are the best placed company to offer in that particular market in 2 and 3-wheeler segment. Based on all the opportunities offered in the country, we have almost 70 to 80% market share there. In 4-wheeler also, we are working very closely with all the top companies, both domestically and outside India, to qualify our products. But the current quantum of the opportunity is still in a very nascent market stage. But it is ready to explode, and internally, that is the preparation and the focused approach on the platform which we are having on the e-mobility side. So that was for Yogesh. I can now move on to the next speaker, Shreya, where again, the question was on the capacity that you are awaiting the new capacity for the 30-acre land which we purchased. I talked about some of the delays, the compliance or our inability to get the environmental clearance for us to start the project work there. That is the main cause for the delay there. Then there's a question on integrated manufacturing site, which we are planning at Dahej, where these delays are happening, where I had mentioned earlier that not only Elantas, but the other businesses are also planning to buy the land parcel. And at an Eltana level, we want to create an integrated manufacturing site there. Last year in 2025, Elantas India conducted a deep dive analysis on what will be the synergy, cross-functional synergy that will be realized at a overall Eltana level if we put that integrated site. And what we found out was, right from some of the infrastructural areas to few utilities areas, common procurements, common HRs, the sustainability goals more towards the renewable energy source, there has been a huge synergy which we could leverage. And that is still on the table. I know there has been some delays in sourcing the land for the other businesses and eventually putting the project to commercials. But we are still focused to bring that integrated manufacturing site at Eltana level to the country, because clearly at Eltana level, we feel that the country offers tremendous growth opportunity. And with the geopolitical conditions, India clearly emerges one of the opportune destinations for investments. There was a question on localization of RM. I would say in our overall product mix, 60 to 65% of the products are already localized. However, for 30 to 35%, we are still dependent on China and few companies in Europe and US for the product supplies. While we are making an effort to have that localization from the vendor management side, but we have to clearly appreciate that on some of those products, it's a feedstock-based products where the China has a much more integrated value chain, and manufacturing those in India still are very cost prohibitive. So I would say, 60 to 65% is our localized product spend. We could push it by a couple of percentage points in the coming years, but going beyond 70% or so would require a huge push both from the countryside and from the investment side in the chemical sector to have, almost 80 to 90% localization of those raw materials. Then share some of the questions which you sent were on, the gross profits that we are making almost 100,000 rupees per ton on gross profits and 50,000 rupees per ton on EBITDA. And you had asked that would those be sustained or what is the future outlook? While I can't talk specific on the future outlook, but I can only say that the market indicators and the end markets which we cater to clearly shows a very good, or I would say the better growth trajectory than the past 5 years. You look at the end markets like electronics, which a lot of you talked about, e-mobility, the data center growth happening in India, high-speed rail, the traction motors that will go into the railway, the power sector, the number of new transformers and the push towards improving the efficiencies of the existing power sector. All these are the segments where Elantas can add huge value, and there's no reason not to, believe that we have better growth trajectories projected for the coming 5 to 10 years. You also asked about the medium term, which are the top emerging end sectors and where we would focus on. I would say at the top of the list, it's the data centers. We are already catering to the data center markets through various channels. And that is one which is continue to grow because the electrical infrastructure requirement of data center, what we are getting the numbers is quite high. So that's clearly in the medium term, one of the key focus area for Elantas India. E-mobility, which we talked about, would be the second one, where 2 and 3 wheelers, we have huge penetration. We are having a good hold on the market, and we are preparing ourselves and qualifying our products as the 4-wheeler penetration goes up. And the third segment where a lot of questions also came, and I spoke about it in the last AGM, is the battery energy storage system. Clearly, and the renewable part, there's a huge push coming in that particular market on the wind turbine side, on high voltage resin application, post integration of one roll resin. It offers now opportunity for us to tap into those end markets. On the battery energy storage system, a lot of leading companies, including Reliance, Adani's, JSW's, they're promising huge investments in that particular sector. But I would still say that from the resin demand perspective, it is still in a very nascent stage because a lot of assemblies for that entire systems are still been imported. and China is very heavily integrated into those systems. I would say, in the last 3 or 4 quarters, we had very healthy discussions with all these top tier companies. We are working on some programs with them, but some of the pricing expectation, Reliance and Adani being Reliance and Adani, is something where, there has to be a huge focus for us from the R&D side, and that's what we are working on. So I would still say on the BESS side, the volume currently is at a very nascent stage. Lot is still coming or being imported from China, but we are keeping a eye on it, and we are developing, price competitive price solutions to cater to these big volume applications, eventually demand coming from, say, Reliances and Adanis of the world. On the Von Roll side, you had asked what has been our organic growth and growth coming from Von Roll. In 2025, to the extent of 5%, the growth has come from Von Roll resin integration, and organic growth has been, say, 8.2%. So in that 13.2% sales growth, 5% is Von Roll, which is in organic growth, and almost 8+% growth is organic, Von Roll in organic growth. Yeah, then there have been some broad level questions which you have asked. How many years behind is India versus China? And, very difficult question. And it's from time perspective, I have just come yesterday from China. I've spent a week there, so it's not a good time to ask me this question, because what I see in China is, much ahead, maybe a couple of decades or more decades ahead than what we see currently in India, both from the terms of the support they get from the government on the regulation, if you want to expand the capacities, and the overall incentive the industry gets, to set up facilities and cater to the local demand. But having said that, at Elantas India, we stay very bullish. We have other competencies in terms of, from the process engineering perspective, from R&D perspective, from talent availability perspective. And I see, the next 10 years, both at a country level and for Elantas Beck India level, we could cover a lot of grounds to come closer to what China is doing. There were questions on India R&D capability, China capability. Again, at a broad level, I would say there are a lot of grounds which we need to cover. We understand that, and at an individual Elantas Beck India level, we continue to focus on R&D as we move forward. Then you asked about the complementary of Von Roll product portfolios with us. So Von Roll product portfolio, if you see, are primarily in the high voltage segment, but a lot of those resins products also caters to our existing low voltage segment, and also the medium voltage transformer and select electrical motor applications. So the integration of Von Roll has really broadened our product breadth and also have given much higher share of wallet with some of the accounts where we had already deep relationships. So the Von Roll portfolio, I would say, has significantly helped in further broadening our product portfolio. So those were the questions from Shreyas. I move on to the next speaker now, Himanshu. Again, you asked about the CapEx program for the next 2 years. Without talking details of the numbers, which obviously you will see in our annual reports or subsequent quarterly board meetings, I would say, right now, considering some delays in the new capacity expansion, we would be doing on immediate basis some of the brownfield expansion in our Ankleshwar site, so that we do not lose on any opportunities which comes to us on short and medium term basis. And we are looking at upwards of 50 crores at least capex investments in our brownfield expansions. And then for the greenfield, in the last AGM, I had mentioned we have taken say 200 crore plus investment budget, but that is only for the phase one. We have looked into the different phasing. There has been some changes in the plan, the opportunity pipeline which we are building, and I could say, the investments there could be upwards of 300 to 400 crores, depending on the timing of that investments as well as the opportunity mix which will come to us. In terms of employee strength, 204 employees. I have already answered this question earlier. You asked about the expansion plan. I already mentioned that we will be looking at brownfield expansion almost immediately. You would see some of it in the H2 part in Ankleshwar site. You asked about how many plants in India we have. Currently, we have 2 plants. For Elantas Beck India, we do not have any plant abroad. So the way we are set up is very in a decentralized basis. Elantas Beck India, for the most part, is serving the local geographies, which is the India market, and some of the markets which are adjacent to India, like some of these SAARC countries, also fall into the scope of our existing manufacturing facilities. And then we have similar capacities spread over at Elantas Global in different regions. You asked about the raw materials, how much percent, 60-65 domestic and rest from China and other countries. You asked about the leading competitors and who is the best customer, See, on the competition side, it's very diverse based on the businesses we play in. In wire enamel, we have 50 to 55% market share, and the remaining market share is held by the local Indian players, and I would say they are still very dominant in the low end of the product stream, while we are more dominant on the value product stream. Similarly, in the LV, we have almost 60% market share. We see some of the global players also in that particular segment, but their market share or penetration is very minimal. So we have a very diverse, I would say, the competitor base based on the application segment we focus on. And on the customer side, you asked which are our best customers. I would say all our customers are the best customers. We like to see it that way. We put an immense focus on our customers. Our top 10 customers, if I would say, include 7 leading OEMs and 3 are top channel partners. So these top 10 customers, 70% is I would say the OEMs, and 30% or 3 are our top channel partners, where we have relationships running over decades, I would say. You asked about the future plan of the company. Difficult for me to give any forward-looking outlook and the pipelines you asked about. But all I can say is that in the last year, our endeavor has been to sustain the core which we have and start laying the foundation to build the future. That's the key area where we have been actively working on. When I say sustaining the core, we are strengthening our position through more value-added products in the existing segments so that we continue to maintain those market share. For the future, there have been a lot of opportunities we've talked about in the e-mobilities, BESS, data center spaces, where we are building huge amount of capacities, both from the R&D side and eventually on the manufacturing side, as a broad, strategy plan over the next 3 to 5 years. In terms of the pipeline, clearly, our if you look at our R&D, and this will also address some of the questions which a lot of speakers have asked lately, from last year, what we have also done is within our MTD function, which is Market Technology and Development function, we have started looking at that function in 3 areas. One is the market development part, the other is the product development part, and then third is the new platform piece. So the market development is basically, talks about what are the existing products which we can get into the new markets. So that particular stream look at developing the new markets from the existing product. Product development, here we talk broadly on the incremental innovation on the products which we already have. So basically the first pillar and the second pillar works around sustaining our core, like what we can do better from our existing products, whether new markets or incremental innovation. The third pillar is the new platform pillar, where we talk about, how do we build the future now? We already have a very good portfolio and a future existing. How do we build the new platforms? And there, some of these platforms which we talked about, the data centers, the e-mobility, some of the specific applications within LV more related to sustainable solutions, are the platforms where we are putting in a lot of our new product pipeline, which is coming in, which will, bear fruits, say, over 3, 5, 10 years. And that's how fundamentally we have a little bit reorganized our MTD function and now building capabilities in all the 3 segments, looking at the market opportunity. In terms of the order book specifically, you asked, as on date, having leading market share in some of the segments we play in, for example, wire enamel, if we have 50-55% market share, all the customer base, the channel partners, almost all those volumes come to us, So I would not hesitate to say that looking at our existing business, factoring in any volatility or change in demand, our order book is roughly 50-60% of revenues which you currently see here. So there's a firm demand profile which we get at the start of the month or start of the quarter. So we always start with a good order book. You also asked about our market share in the region. I already spoke about that. On electronic side, our market share is roughly 20-22%, because right now we are only dominant in casting and potting application and the conformal coating application. There are huge range of other electronic applications where we are looking at broadening at a global level our product portfolio. But until then, it is very difficult for us to further expand our market share in the electronic segment. And we also see huge amount of competition from global players like Henkel's and other companies who have a, very dominant position in that particular market segment. So there in the electronic segment, I would say we have to further broaden our product portfolio where a lot of pipeline work is being worked on. We are also waiting for the right time when a lot of these OEMs or the manufacturers, they start making in India, because a lot of components again in that entire supply chain are coming from outside. So as and when based on the government push based giving PLIs and incentives, we would see more facilities in India, which will also help us to get more market share. You asked about new products launched by company depending on the market needs. How many new products do we add? At an overall level, when we look at the new product launches, we, as other companies, we look at the innovation index, which is primarily an indication that how many new product launches we did over the last 5 years. And if you look at past 2-3 years, we were at high single digit levels, say 8-9%. In 2025, we have gone up to 11.2% right now. And our endeavor is to, continue to push that number to the industry best numbers. And I think in the last AGM, I mentioned that it is, my wish and dream, and, I want teams to get closer to or above and beyond that 15% number. So with the new pipeline which we are building and some of the opportunities which kicks in, we should be at those levels very soon in the near term. Yeah, so that's for Himanshu, all the questions. If I move on to the next, Sir Ravi, again, Ravi Mehta, you asked about the timeline of the Bharuch project. Yes, I admit we are delayed by 6-7 months. Our earlier plan was that by December we'll get the environmental clearance, and from January we'll start the the project execution phase. But because of these compliances delays, we are behind 6 to 7 months for our new facility. But as I mentioned, as of now, we have taken an immediate decision that in the interim, till we get all those compliances resolved, we are not, just waiting to get things happen. We will increase or put some brownfield capacities in Ankleshwar, so we don't miss on medium to short-term demands. You talked about, cross-divisional arrangements in Bharuch. Again, I would like to highlight that Eltana level, there is a wish or an endeavor that looking at the opportunities that might emerge in India over the next couple of decades, it is worthwhile to have an integrated manufacturing site for all the 4 businesses of Eltana Group. And we continue to, focus on that endeavor. And happy to say Elantas India, based on their manufacturing experience in the country, have been given this project to create an integrated Eltana site in India. And the Dahej, I know there have been some delays, but once those are resolved, it will be our endeavor to put that particular site and leverage cross-divisional synergies as well. You talked about the recent geopolitical situation, and this is also one of the topics where a lot of questions came from other speakers. Clearly, if I may take a couple of minutes to explain you the situation, we were taken aback as of March 5th of this year because of the West Asia geopolitical crisis, wherein, it started when at a Gujarat location, we got a notification from government that from tomorrow, the natural gas supplies will be cut to half, And the decision was so swift, but our teams, almost overnight basis, they used LDOs or other fuel profile to ensure that operations continue to run. Now, I think in 2 to 3 weeks' time, we are back on natural gas. The flow of natural gas have been okay now. So first and foremost thing I wanted to mention was, no operational disruption due to the crisis, because Elantas, based on decades of footprints in India market, we want to ensure to our customers and stakeholders that there is a continuity of supply even in these situations. So I would say the Middle East crisis had led us to have a very clear focus, one on the operational side, that we ensure the fuel or the energy is flowing and we keep the operational running. There has been some impact on increase in operational cost, which goes without saying, but as of now, that's one part which we, took care of. The second was the huge spike in the raw material prices, which we saw. India as a country from the West Asia crisis has been the worst hit. if you even look at globally, on average, the raw material prices in India has gone up by 50%. In China, it went up by 46%. And I'm now talking about raw material, which is of concern to Elantas India. In Europe, it was still at 15 to 20% level, and North America also lesser than that. So globally, if you look at the implications of the West Asia crisis, it was maximum for India. And based on those raw material price increases, one was on the price increase, the second was also the availability of raw materials. Big companies, players, epoxy players, phenol suppliers, they all declared force majeures in early March. And the way we address that situation goes back to our deep relationship with these suppliers, where we still managed to get all the raw materials. Obviously, the price points were higher. In few cases, we had asked them to maintain those price points for at least few weeks, because to the customers also, we wanted our strategic partner to also get some time before they can absorb these price increases. So I would say since then and now, our procurement team or the supply chain disruptions which has happened, we have appropriately secured our raw material supplies for, I would say, at least 4 to 6 weeks visibility. And we are very confident that we don't see any disruptions unless, something major pans out in future. But we have been very mindful in securing those supplies. Other important thing I want to mention is the entire leadership team is also taking utmost caution that we do not build very high inventory levels of high priced raw materials. So there are few opportunities where we could cover ourselves for long and benefit on the profits, but we are still hesitant to take, or we are not taking any of those calls, keeping in mind, clear picture on the working capital requirements. Overall, I would say our customers and stakeholders, considering we work on a partnership model, has been extremely supportive. And through this forum also, I want to extend my heartfelt thank for supporting us in this crisis situation. And we went to them for some price increases, and in a lot of cases, we have seen that customers have accepted those and helped us to support. So those are the marketing. The third thing is the impact on the logistics cost. Clearly, the logistics cost has also gone up significantly for the shipments which are in inwards shipments. There have been some delays which are coming through Home's channel. So we expect 15 to 20 days of delays as of now, with the increase in logistics cost, which again adds on to our operating costs, which we then eventually pass on to our customers in some way or the other. So that's the overall, overall picture on the crisis. I would say through the price increases, through some support from the customer, through securing our raw material supplies, and taking care of the operational energy issues, we have positioned ourselves, among the best supplier in the midst of this crisis as well. There have been news in the market, or what we are seeing in the market, a lot of our competitors are not even able to supply the products, leave apart at what price points. So we are maintaining that situation, and we feel very confident with the global support as well that we should be able to, manage the crisis situation well. The next question, Ravi, you asked about, growth versus GDP, wherein we normally give an indication that our growths will be 1.5 times that of GDP. So considering 2025 around 6.5% GDP, our growth should be 10% plus level, and that you could see on the revenue growth side. Very difficult to link that growth to the volume growth. As I was mentioning earlier, On the volume side, while you see the end application volume growths to be in double-digit levels, based on the GDP growth, you have to dig to the second, third level, because a lot of that growth is also coming from, say, paper insulation side. It is also coming from aluminum insulation, where we still have a very small market share, and the low end, I would say the low margin markets, where we also see huge amount of imports coming from China. So keeping that into perspective, I would say on the revenue side, we have clearly exceeded our targets of, say, 1.5 times the GDP growth. On the volume side, since we have, almost very high market shares in the segments we play in, the opportunity for further volume growth in the existing setup is difficult, and all the new volume growths will come from some of these newer platforms or electronics applications, which we talked about earlier. The other question, and I think it was repetitive, so I'll take some more time to explain that. You talked about our mix, the product mix between, the base category versus value driver category. So if you look from the market side and look at the split of the market between base and the value products, the split is 70-30. 70 is the base and 30 is the value products. If you look at our supplies to the market, the mix is 50-50. 50% of whatever we supply in the wire enamel goes into the base category, which is predominantly, the polyesters and the modified polyesters, and 50% of the value driver category. And within this business segment, it is our constant endeavor that what should be the right mix based on which we drive this market. We could easily get more volumes, have a higher volume growth rate, but we'll be taking a lot of, low base category market share, which obviously is something we are keeping an eye on. But those decisions we are taking, keeping into view our return on assets, our capacity utilizations, and the future strategic role which we might want to play in the newer platforms which are emerging in the country or in the geography. So those three mix of decisions from the strategic side give us an opportunity to, play between the low value and the value segment within the wire enamel category. Having said that, what we have also seen in the last 3 to 4 years, that the low value segment, particularly the switch from copper to aluminum, particularly in the consumer segment, is going up. And the resin requirement on the aluminum is almost 2.7 times that on copper. So from volume side, you see the switch. You see the more volumes going into the aluminum segment, but the price points are very low. So it is very important for us also not to lose those volume markets. So one or two challenges what we were seeing historically was, number one, we didn't have a winning product in that particular market, which is price competitive, and number two, which also, addresses the color requirement on coating on these aluminum wires. They require a deep red color, and our product was not fetching that color. So in the last year, while you would not see that in the financials, what we have done is, number one, solve the technical issue of the color. We have also got almost much more price competitive product, which we will now, gradually place into the aluminum sector market so that we can capture the incremental volume growth. And happy to say, as we proceed in this quarter in 2026 and in subsequent quarter, we'll continue to work on more efficiencies so that we still have a control on those margins, because the margins in the low end segment could go in very low single digit levels, and which at Elantas we feel are not the good market segments where we could add value, looking at the utilizations where we currently are. But happy to say that we have a product now in that particular segment, and we'll continue to take the market share in that high volume segment as well. So yeah, this question came several times. I wanted to address that that we as leaders here, looking at the strategic plan we have for the organization, the volume, sales growth, and the return on asset on our existing capacities, what we need to have. Mix of all those decisions define our split between the base and the value category. Yeah, so that's for Ravi Mehta. I addressed most of the questions. If I move on, Vishwanath, again, there were, questions on the capacities which have been addressed, answered. I'll move a little quickly because there have been a lot of repetitive questions here. Engineering and electronic, what is the real growth here? We discussed about that, company's revenue 13% was from like overall growth, almost 8% was from organic, and the remaining was from one roll. You asked about the margin profile difference between one roll products as well as our existing portfolio. I would say, a lot of one roll margins are also in the range of 35 to 45%, slightly higher than the margin profiles of our existing products. But, I would say in that particular range, 35 to 45% level. The market share versus opportunity in electronic segment, for the most part, I talked about that. We are at 22% market share in electronics, and our endeavor is to get towards 25 to 30%, but we see huge competition from companies like HB Fuller's, Bostik, Ramp. These are, multinational companies. And then we also see a lot of components been coming from China and Korea based suppliers who are either having a joint venture with India companies or they are bringing the materials into the India market. But in the electronic segment, we are carving our niches and we want to be the market share leader by differentiating mostly on the technology differentiation and the competencies in the segments. You talked about the innovation index, where I had already mentioned that 11.2% is what the new products as a percentage of overall revenue, which are in the last 5 years, the sales coming from new products. Export, you had asked about viable or not. As I mentioned, India caters to India and the nearby regional markets like Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. Historically, we also had a good market share in Bangladesh, but since the crisis, we have stopped sales there, which we are constantly evaluating to get back in the Bangladesh market, because currently also we face some credit risk if we continue to sell in those markets. But clearly from the export side and the way Elantas Global is set up, the opportunities lies in neighboring countries of India, where we could do the exports in near future. You asked about how the market is changing in electronics. I had already talked about that on the product side. In the electronics area, the companies are asking for highly reliable products, which could deliver high throughputs. They should be all sustainable and, reach RoHS compliant. And they're also asking lot more on environmental solutions. The other challenge in the electronic segment is the R&D, the way it has to be set up is, the moment you supply one technology platform products, your team should start working on the next or the incremental technology platforms. So that's again one of the challenges which we see in the electronics industry and the need of the customer, which has been asked for. So yeah, these are the questions from Vishwanath Modi. I'll move on to the next one. Ashok, you for the most part you talked about the questions on the EC amendment information which you saw for our Ankleshwar site. There, the application which you're talking about, EC amendment, goes back to the land parcel, the 3 to 4 acre land parcel in Ankleshwar current site, which we decided to sell off because we were not utilizing that land parcel. And while the sale happened from Elantas Beck India 3 years back in, I think, 2023, right now we are in the process of amending the EC, because with the land sale, you also have to get your EC amended based on, the capacities and the pollution road on the land site. So the information what you saw on amending EC pertains to that efforts which our teams are doing. You talked about the new capacities, and I believe the question was, looking at the volume growth and these kind of investments, how will this pay off, and that's a very good question and an important one from the financial side as well. See, for the new capacities, one is the India demand. And I'm taking a much longer view here, while the data or the customers shows more optimistic view. But it is very clear that, from the enamel wire perspective itself, the demand in India from the power sector and, the PVF, what we are saying, could reach above 100,000 metric ton in the coming decade. It's absolutely, we are very confident that those kind of numbers will be achieved. We are currently sitting at, say, 35,000 or 30,000 market or supply side. So you're looking at almost 3x increase in capacities coming from only in the wire enamel segment. Then you talk about, the electronic segment where we would have the new product portfolios. Impregnation resins are also going up. We are looking at e-mobility. If the four-wheeler e-mobility applications goes up, there could be a spurt in the product demand. So if you actually map out all the pipeline through, say, next decade, this particular investments clearly pays off, So that's one stream of the payoff. The second important highlight here is the new site will be the site where we'll also do a lot of integration of our footprints of the sites which we currently have. Because as all of you shall appreciate, the current manufacturing sites which we have are fully depreciated. They are, 30, 40 years old. It also poses us challenges to structurally increase beyond a point or debottleneck those capacities beyond a point, and hence also restricts us to get to even better efficiency levels in the current setups. So with the new capacities, you will also see some amount of footprint integration either at a product level or at a business level at the new site, where we would see, the most efficient way of manufacturing, better unit economics and better sustainable products. So, financially, these two are the reasons which justifies the payoffs of the investments in those new sites. You talked about the RM prices. I already spoke about in the Middle East prices explanation, and those are the top three questions which I see, Ashok, from your side. If I move on to the next speaker, Dilip, you spoke about, EV batteries and FlexLamp application. I'm very glad you asked that question. So FlexLamp is one of the areas which not only at India but at a global level, we are deeply looking into that particular application. As you rightly mentioned, it is a good portfolio addition to our already resin supplies which we make. The customer base is also the same. And from technology development perspective also, we have the competency to manufacture that. So happy to say at a global level, over the last 3 quarters, there has been a very dedicated initiative at FlexLab, and Elantas India team has also, deep dive and taken it as one of the new platforms where we will be focusing on. And while don't want to talk any forward-looking statements here, but we have our, commercials being planned out from later part this year to subsequent year to capture the growth in that particular market. Then you also talked about very interesting application, allotherm, how it is different from PEEK. We all know that there are some manufacturers who have brought in, the PEEK technology for India market. There have been some instances where we are seeing this new product being used in EV applications. In China also, some of the leading EV manufacturers, four-wheeler manufacturers, are using this. And currently, I think from technology side, I would say it is still debatable whether PEEK would be extensively used for those applications, or the products which we serve, including allotherm, would be the major ones. We still believe that our product will be the future. The PEEK uses will be still in very niche applications. That is our stand, but we are closely, looking at that particular development. And internally, at a global level, we also have competencies to look at that platforms for development, but as of now, we are not focusing too much there. So I would still put a bet on allotherm as compared to the PEEK, which we talked about. Electronics, you talked about that there has been significant increase in volumes, which we saw in 2025. In later part of 2025, which you mentioned is commendable. See, electronics, what happened was, if you realize, in early part of 2025, there was a constraint on the rare earth supply because of the geopolitical tariff issues between US and China. So our end market, 80% of electronic resins goes into automotive sector. And automotive sector was relatively slow in few quarters, maybe in 2024 or as we got into 2025. But later on, those demands started pulling. And that's why you see, the spurt in the volumes, which you saw in the electronics application side. The second thing which I want to mention is, while our dominant presence is in casting and potting, on the conformal coating sides also, we had got into or got, achieved good milestones or grounds in last year. And we continue to increase that market share in 2026 and beyond. So those were the two key reasons, I would say, the demand coming back from automotive and conformal coating applications where you saw the volumes increase. Yeah, and so those were the major questions, Dilip, from your side. If I now move to Sudhir, yeah, and Sudhir, you sent a lot of questions. I hope I had answered most of it, but I'll still go one by one so that most of the questions of yours are answered. You talked about Ankleshwar CTOs of 70,000, but I mentioned our current capacities in Ankleshwar is 35,000. And considering we have a CTO of higher capacities, we'll be looking at expansion in due course there as well till a new site comes in. Again, there was this EC issue which was asked, which I'd already addressed. EC delay for the new site, I'd already addressed. Then you had question On our sister company that purchased land, can we expect merging of those entities? This also I addressed that we are looking at integrated manufacturing side. Right now, we are not looking at merging those entities, but we are looking more from cross-divisional synergies which we could leverage, which could potentially have better unit economies for all the four businesses of Eltana. The other initiative which all of you might be aware is also the formation of AMS India, which happened in December 2025. AMS is Eltana Management Services, through which a lot of support services or competency center kind of model we might would like to review building in India in due course, not only for Elantas India, but also for the three sites. And through AMS, our goal would also be that in this integrated site, all the common services will be supplied from AMS. So I would say, rather than merging of entities, we are seeing more from independent entities with common synergies and common competencies where some leverage could happen. Because each of the businesses under these four divisions are very different, operationally. The profiles, the effluent generations, the utility requirements are completely different. So there is no synergies in merging and having, one unified site. Then you talked about the purchase of traded goods at 22 crores. Loss. Can you throw some light? See, I would say in 2025, trading was pertaining to one-roll business. I think the question you are asking is that there was a traded goods number which is 22 crores. And in 2024, it was purchase of stocks in trade was 15 crore and sale was 7 crore. So here, what I would say is, at a very broad level, without going into the details of the number, which we can address later on, I would say, when we integrated the one-roll business, the resin business, historically, one-roll was set up at a very global level. And Elantas' big competency has been on the regional side. And that's the biggest benefit of this integration of one-roll, wherein we are transforming the benefits of the global now deeply into the region. So resin historically for one-roll, it was traded, India operations, there were some which were manufactured here, but there was a majority which would just come as a traded supply from our European counterpart and then sold to India market. Now, as we speak in 2026, we want to manufacture those resins locally in India, and that is a big plus from the service side to our customers. All the major customers in high voltage are, really excited about that development in Elantas India. And what you'll see is this traded good volumes going down, and most of the manufacturing of these resins will start happening locally from India. So there'll be tech transfers as we speak. There are tech transfer happening so that a lot of these traded volumes eventually will go out. Then you asked about our Chinese imports still troubling us. China, obviously based on their better competencies, we have to keep a close eye. But I would say the way our supply chain is set up, we are in a very good situation. We don't see any challenges from China. However, on the finished product side, what we have seen is due to the overcapacity situation in China, the enameled aluminum wire end product has been, almost dumped into the markets, the Asia markets, including India. So if you look at enameled aluminum wire in India, magnet wire in India, there the end product imports from China has significantly gone up, which to some extent impact the resin market in the aluminum sector of ours, where we already have a very small presence. We do not have a much market share. So I would say no significant impact coming from China as of now. You asked about RM price increases. Yes, I explained earlier that our customers have been extremely supportive. We were able to take price increases in line with the raw material prices. In few cases, we have been supporting our customers as well. So some of the price increases will also happen in phases. But broadly, I would say, yes, we have been able to pass on RM price increases. Then you said that 50% of our revenue comes from motor business. Can you quantify the impact on revenues due to rare earth problem? Yes, as I mentioned, in April 2025, India was importing 90% of rare earth. It created temporary shortage, but now the supplies have been normalized. At a country level, you would see that to reduce the dependency on rare earth imports, India already is building, domestic capacities. ARCI in Hyderabad it would be the first integrated rare earth magnet facility, which is coming on board in March. It has slightly delayed, but March, April, in the first half of this year, we would see that coming in. And there was a huge government support of almost 7,000 crore to set up that facility. So right now, no such problem we are seeing. Then you had also asked a question on acceptance of ferrite-based magnets as they require more intense potting as compared to rare earth. See, the rare earth magnets are typically used in high efficiency compact motors, mostly like EV traction motors, wind turbines, or some other defense application. Ferrite magnets are used in conventional applications like fans, pumps, speakers, sensors, and small motors. The ferrite magnets, they have, lower magnetic energy than the rare earth magnets. So it does not, in few cases, based on the application, match with the efficiencies or the compactness level needed. So from the EV segment perspective, which is also of importance to us, you have asked this question, whether ferrite or rare earth magnets are preferred. I would say, very company specific, while some EV players are looking at ferrite-based alternatives because of the rare earth shortages, but there's clearly an efficiency trade-off. So, the dependency on rare earth, what we foresee would still be there, and it would not be substituted to the ferrite-based applications. Then you talked about, high voltage resin, how much price points roughly for the high voltage resins. I would say, 950 to 1,000 rupees per kg are the price points. LV price points are almost, I would say at 50 or 60% of that, between 450 to 500 rupees per kg. In terms of the addressable markets, even with the existing resins, I would say our addressable markets in HV are almost 80 to 100 crores. Currently, we are at almost 30 crore numbers. You asked about, and I think we have addressed this question, that over the 5 years, you mentioned that in the call that our volume growth has not been that good, why we are lagging. So I talked about that, when we look at the volume growth, you look at the paper-based insulation, copper versus aluminum. One other thing, you also mentioned that in the industry, some of the customers like precision wires in the winding industry or the transformer industry players, if you see, and if you look at their annual reports, they are showing very healthy growths, very significant increase in volume. And you are saying why our volumes have not grown that much. The other reason is the volume value growth of theirs are also linked to the copper prices. In the last year, the copper price has gone up by almost 1.5, 2x, So when they book their revenues, automatically those revenues goes much higher, So I wanted to assure all of you that whatever is the strategically relevant markets, in those markets, we have actually gained market share and not lost volumes. And with a lot of these customers, we have very deep relationships, and there's no way we'll lose on the volumes. The only thing is we'll have to slightly expand our strategically relevant markets if it takes off the margin, the margin profiles which we are looking on, and then we can further increase our volume growth. But going forward, most of the volume growth will come from the newer platforms, newer applications, which we would see, and the existing businesses will grow at these rates only. Then you talked about, 2025 being a roller coaster, loss of revenues faced with how much more pain we start in 2026. Yeah. So to be honest, in 26, the start has been broadly muted. A lot of challenges. What we saw in the fan market, LV segment, the consumer demand was not coming. And then suddenly we saw this Middle East crisis, which has come up. But I would say, in this particular segment, based on what Elantas India is, we are more of a franchisee, and we are in the best position to take care of any such crisis or volatility in the market. No other competitors can, tackle the situation as better as us. And from that perspective, I would say that, the company is doing a great job, and we continue to look for opportunities in these challenging times to serve our customers. Then you talked about casting and potting. You wanted to know the sales or the size of how much casting and potting we are doing. See, we are doing casting and potting. It's one of the biggest segment within the electronics application. We are doing it both for the PCBs and non-PCBs applications. I would say 60 to 70% of our sales are in that particular application. The conformal coating, we are making steady progress. We have now developed a broader product basket in that particular segment. The current business volumes are relatively smaller as we move from 25 onwards, but they are the value-driven application, and we continue to strengthen the volume growth in that particular segment. On the TIM segment, which you talked about, we have localized some of the thermal grease solution, primarily for the Me Too market, and we are positioning some of these products in a way that we could have our niche carved out. But these products fall into silicon-based technologies, which requires a little bit deeper technical engagement to, displace the well-established players in this particular space. So we are slowly and steadily getting into these market segments through new product launches. Then the next question was on the construction chemicals. What has been our sales has been flat broadly, 11 crores as compared to 14 crores in 2024. Then your questions are on data centers and battery energy storage system. I mentioned, we are seeing good amount of growth. We are seeing very huge demand coming in from some of our OEMs in the coming years in that particular application. In BESS, as I mentioned, we offer these conducive adhesives which are used in battery cell bonding with cooling plates. And we are engaging with the major global as well as Indian BESS manufacturers on these solutions. But the demand in India is still in the nascent phase, as I was mentioning earlier, that a lot of the assemblies are still coming from other countries. However, BESS is an emerging high potential segment. With the government-led initiatives, we see that there'll be an expanding markets which will open up in due course. Then, yeah, at what stage or level localization does a product go in BESS? I have addressed this. You talked about shift in aluminum markets. We have addressed that. Instead of coils, permanent magnet motors use strong magnet for rotor element to generate magnetic field. Is that a loss of market? See, it depends. You are right that the permanent magnet on a motor, on a rotor of a motor can replace a winding and can keep a magnetic field, but it depends on the design of the motors. The permanent magnet is not a new concept. It has been there for quite some time, and there is a cost difference between these two solutions. So we currently don't see it as a threat because these applications are typically in the low voltage entities and where the cost consideration play a major role. So to your question, whether it will take our markets, I would say no. Have we started manufacturing completely Elan drive range of products? No, I would say we are only limited to local manufacturing right now. Then you asked, have we started seeing the fruits of electronic component manufacturing schemes? Elantas products currently, they find application in the assembly of electronics PCBs rather than in the manufacturing of actual electronic components. And that is something which is very important for all of you to know. Because what you look at is the growth in the electronic component markets and then expect that why Elantas resins or application has not grown at those levels. So our application are in the assembly of electronics PCBs, to answer your question. Yeah. There are a lot of other questions. Balance between low volume and high value products. I've already explained this. Yes, there was one question on the customer complaint which you asked about. That there was an increase in customer complaint in 2025 over 2024. Very valid question. I would say, 90% or around between 85 to 90% of those complaints are coming from the damages and leakages which happens to the drum while shipments. And, we have now put a dedicated project in place to do that. We are aware of that situation, but there is an investment required to palletize those, drums for shipments, which requires incremental cost. And when we went out into the customer markets, none of them are willing to pay us, any incremental cost for that service levels. Having said that, I would say it is our responsibility to fix that problem. And we are doing it systematically by seeing how we can inbuild more efficiencies and take care of these complaints and still offer the best solutions to the market. But at a broad level, I would say, other than this particular complaint, which we are very mindful and we are aware of, our customer satisfaction levels are at highest level and we haven't seen more increase in the complaints. Then you ask for due to price increase, instead of directly buying from us, our customers are buying from the dealers at roll prices. There could be one-off cases here and there, but most of our dealers, hold a finite quantity and we are very well aware of how much volumes we are carrying off. So this question of yours could be only one-off thing where, our customers are buying from dealers at told lower prices. That would not be a norm in terms of continued buying. Are our customers seeking cheaper alternatives due to the price hikes? I would say, no. We have given the price hikes in line with the raw material price increases. There could be some, the low value markets where there could be switch happening, but at a broad level, these switches are very difficult to do because there's a product standardization and, qualification process. So we do not see too much of switch happening because of these price hike. Then you talked about customers making in-house these insulating materials. I would say highly unlikely. There have been few examples of the customers where they have backward integrated. That is predominantly, the risk mitigation exercise which they have done, and they have done it only to a quantum of volumes which are very strategic for them. In the event that the supply is disrupted, they could make their own. But we are not seeing any trends where, these end customers will start building the insulating materials as well. One, because they may not have the idle competencies to manufacture in the most efficient manner. And two, based on the long-term sustainability of that business, may not justify those investments. Eltana mentioned the question I'm reading has sold its composite and battery protection business. Yes, strategically, we have decided to sell that business and focus on our core business markets. You asked about the printed electronics, that it is gaining traction and Eltana is expanding. Are we seeing orders kicking in? Clearly, it's an emerging and promising market. It is still in very nascent stage in India. Elantas Europe has got a lot of success in that particular markets, and as the India market matures, I would say, this printed electronic material volumes will increase over time. Then Apple is expanding its supply base in India. Numbers are now even bigger than Vietnam. Do we see any huge opportunity? So we are not offering any solutions for mobile assembly. So that's not a target market for us. How much revenues and volumes is coming from water-based chemistry? And what is the price difference? And this is an important question. And I would also like to mention on this forum that in line with Eltana values, we are from the R&D perspective, we are focusing on sustainable development. And these water-based varnish, which we introduced in 2025, I would say is one of, a great achievement from our local team. We launched two products, Pedigree 1000, 70% and 35% in the last quarter of 2025, which are sustainable, varnish. These are water-based varnish. While our volume uptake has been relatively slow, we are seeing tremendous traction in this market, and we have no doubt that in the coming years, these will become our major product portfolio. On the pricing point, which you asked, it is very clear these products, are at much higher price point level. So if you look at the water-based varnish and compare it with solvent-based varnish, there's a factor of 2, in terms of the price points. Then the point comes, why would a customer buy this? Our approach or our pricing strategy on this product has been in offering the total values or solutions to the customer. So if you look at these solvent-based varnish and thinner together and compare it with the, water-based varnish and the water, the DM water, which we use in this, the overall cost delta is only 10 to 15%. So something which is double, if you look at the face of it, is actually only 10 to 15%. Over and above this, these water-based varnish does not give any VOC emissions. They offer lower curing time temperatures, which means lesser energy utilization at a customer end. And these are extremely sustainable and safe varnishes to apply. So if you look at the complete package of this solution, there has been huge spurt in the inquiries coming from our customers on this particular product. So I would say this is a win-win product for us, one, based on the values and our endeavor to launch more sustainable products, and two, the benefits it will offer to the people. Yeah, so suddenly ego started coming in. There have been still some more questions. I'll try to address it. PLI scheme, 50% localization mandate. So yeah, in nutshell, you're asking how the PLI scheme are helping us. See, our product component is a very small portion of the overall OEM final product, but we have helped some of our OEMs or our suppliers to avail this from the government, and depending on the product and technology, our ratio of local component varies. Then you asked a question: are we seeing EV localization happening to the extent our product find place? I mentioned earlier our penetration or in India market 2 and 3 wheeler applications, e-mobility is at the peak right now. 4-wheeler is still opening up. The penetration are at a lower level. It's just a matter of time, So we are very closely monitoring that situation. We are qualifying our products in the 4-wheeler markets, and once it opens up, it will offer us good opportunities for growth. You talked about how Elantas India will look at electronic component markets to understand capacity in China is much higher than in India, and you are saying that in India, when we'll get to those capacities level. See, China clearly, even on the electronics ecosystems, if you talk about electronic assemblies as well as, some of the products for semicon manufacturing, their capabilities are much ahead. They have developed a highly integrated supply chain, with strong component ecosystem, large manufacturing infrastructure, and deep technical expertise, I would say. India is still at a cusp, at a nascent stage, but we are closely monitoring. We are, in few cases, even working closely with the government on this particular trend. With the growth coming in the high-end electronic segment markets, both on the assembly side and the component side, we would look at capturing that market potential. And we would also not shy away for any strategic alternative, be it be acquisition or any potential opportunities coming in that stage. But I would say it's too premature for me to say anything on those lines. But we are at the forefront of all the development, and any opportunity that will come up will be in a position to leverage those there. Then you asked about 18 new solutions in 2025. Can you mention some of them with their applications? These are basically new solutions or the product launches where we have significantly shown improvement from previous years. If you look at, from the wire enamel side, I talked about one of the products which we developed on the aluminum side. That was one. Then there are 2 Teraback products, 540, 336 and 37, which we developed to minimize the impact of rising TMA prices. On the LV side, I spoke about the water-based varnish, the Pedigree line of products which we developed. On electronic side, we developed the epoxy-based impregnation resins, which are used in dry type transformers, and these are basically for data center applications. And then we also launched, Dobefil 62 components epoxy potting systems that goes into e-mobility 4-wheeler electronics application. And then on Elentron, the PU potting systems, there was a product being launched, and then, in unsaturated PI resin, again for the EV motor impregnation. So these are the top ones which we launched among the 18 which you asked about. Again, if you look at the theme of these launches, on the wire enamel side, the new product launches have been for having the better cost position. On LV side, it is the sustainability solution, the water-based varnish, and then most of the new products are in either the EV segments or the electronic segments. So that's the broad level theme on the new product launches. Again, there have been questions on which specific products on new products launches. I think this is the same question. BESS, we have come across JSW BESS facilities. Have we started manufacturing and supplying? So it is one of the emerging applications, and happy to say that you're right. They could be one of our potential targets for future, and we have been actively engaging with them and other customers. But it is too early to comment on the opportunity sizing. Then you asked about the technology absorption. There are several projects which are to be absorbed. We importing this material from our sister company. See, Elantas India, while 75% of what we develop here is for domestic, around 25% of the portfolio increase comes from the technology transfer side. And for the newer applications, whether it goes to electronics, EVs, or few of the sustainable solutions in LV, we do these tech transfers from globally, and add to our portfolio. You also asked about how much of the revenues were generated from these tech transfers. Seeing a lot of these tech transfers, I would say some of the tech transfers are for very niche application, and we have to do that not pure play for getting the volumes, but also keeping an edge in the market. That's number one. Number two, also, so that we are able to supply the full portfolio of our products. So there could be some product which commands less volume, but our customer prefers that they buy all the 5 products from one supplier. Yeah. So from volume perspective, I would say some of the tech transfer in 2025 added to roughly 160 to 180 metric tons in the volume, with 8 to 10 crores of direct revenues from the tech transfers which happened. But they had, lot of value add inputs to the overall revenues, which came as a direct benefit to the business from these tech transfers. You talked about one roll contribution. I spoke about it in terms of the volume. 760 metric ton came from one roll, and 50 crores in values came from one roll revenues in the last year. 40 crores from resin, and then 10 crores from tapes. So that brings me to the end of these questions, and I think finally I go on to Henel.
Yes.
I would definitely see, a lot of those questions are already answered. You talked about or asked about the crude impact. Were there any force measures? I mentioned about that. Any impact on the margins, EBITDAs. Right now we have taken the appropriate price increases in the market, at least to be at the same EBITDA level. We do not see any potential, threat based on the prices on our margins, as the customers have been supportive, but we very closely continue to monitor the situation and also covering ourselves on the procurement side. Then there was a question on the China element. What is the current supply company does for small industrial motors and home appliances in epoxy and potting? What percentage is exposed to China? What percentage of company portfolio see high price competition? See, China, obviously they make insulating varnish, which predominantly goes into HVAC motors. Like these are these heating, ventilation, and air conditioning motors. At both organized as well as unorganized market. In India, I would say there is still very high unorganized market, which is not our focus area. So if you compare the Chinese organized market potential to India unorganized market potential, you would see a difference there. But some washing machine motor manufacturers, they're using Chinese varnishing, or they're importing the complete motor assembly from China, which, because of the cost reasons, which impacts our overall supply of resins in those markets. So we see intense price competition clearly in the solvent-borne varnish areas, and the sensitive consumer markets, because they are the ones to switch quickly. For example, the fan markets, the mixie market, the cooler markets. These are the consumer markets which are very price sensitive, and we see threat from Chinese players in that particular market. You asked about the revenues for the retail rewinding segment. It's around 140 crores out of roughly 294 crores, which we sell in the LV market segment. You asked about the capexes. I think most of the questions have been addressed there. You talked about the electronics opportunities in the electronics segment of the PCBs and sensors and automotive application. We spoke a lot about that. The potting and the conformal coating applications are, still seen as a commodity application, but they require high qualifications and validation, especially in the automotive segment in the consumer electronics, where we are gaining traction and at least taking some market share. There was a question on 800 volt EV architect. See, the PCB based applications are classified under electronics in irrespective of voltage ratings. So for us, those are also the addressable markets which we are tapping into. You asked about the mobile application 5G and 6G opportunities. We would say, the demand for thermally conductive insulating material is rising for those telecom application. Currently, we are not in that market segment, but we will definitely be strategically looking at as a future opportunity. You asked about the thermal grease. It's again a very highly commoditized and price sensitive segment. Participation is very selective in differentiated applications. Then you asked about the EBITDAs, the year company 20% on EBITDAs. What are the sustainable margins on EBITDAs and gross margins? See, I spoke about it earlier that we have a deep focus on maintaining the margins on whatever we do. We would like to work at 20% plus EBITDA margins on all the applications and segment we get into, which does not mean that the single EBITDA volume opportunities we'll lose. We'll continue to develop products which are much more efficient. We'll continue to look at opportunities in operations for efficiencies. So at a portfolio level, we still want to be at 20% plus EBITDA margins, and we do not see, any reason why we can't operate on plus those margins levels. Because a lot of newer applications which are coming up, a lot of high-end applications which are coming up, and the core which we have, the blend of it could really fetch us those margins. So we do not see, deterioration of those EBITDA margins as we move forward. You then asked about funding the capex. I spoke about that. You also asked about our previous acquisition of Uber. the non-compete for how many years which we signed. It was for 2 years. Yeah. The non-compete agreement because it was just a technology transfer. Then one role you asked about, whether it's a niche or a full stack application. As I mentioned, through one role acquisition, there's been an advantage on the customer side, wherein some of the HV customers we are able to, broaden the portfolio by selling the LV, and for the LV on the HV side. There have been some OEMs which are hugely benefited because of these integration, because now they get all the products from us in complete package. Then finally, on the capex side, there was one question on ZLD, green power automation, that whether the customer is willing to pay for these initiatives which we are planning at our new site. See, I would say the onus is on us to bring in the sustainable solutions at the cost-effective price. The maturity of the market to pay for that may not be there currently. But as we see the evolving trends in the country, those are some of the solutions that no manufacturing setup can do without it. So when we plan for the futuristic integrated manufacturing facility, these are some of the must-haves in our site. Then we look at what will be the impact on the capexes and operational expense, and we work on minimizing that or bringing that to a value creation level which are bearable for the customer. So we are working on this part. We are not thinking whether we should cut on any of the sustainability piece on the site. It is very clear to us that we'll bring the green technology, we'll bring the renewable resources to the new site, and we'll work on the ZLD concept. And those are the underlying principles or the values at Iltana level we firmly believe on and we want to offer to our stakeholders and customers. The cost effectiveness is something which we are working on, and we are very sure that we'll be able to supply those solutions to the customers at a total value level. So, yeah, that brings me to the end of most of the questions. See, some of the questions for individual participant I may have addressed in addressing the questions to the other participants, but I hope I am able to answer most of it. If there's something which is remaining, please feel free to reach out and we'll try our best to address those questions. And we'll also look for opportunities for more meetings in subsequent time. And thank you all for very insightful questions and a lot of detailed questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajit. Thank you so much. I will hand over to Chairman, sir.
Thank you, Ashutosh, and thank you, Anurag. Very long, but very detailed and very necessary to give all of those answers, because our shareholders themselves have taken a greater interest in our company than I've seen before. I must say that however technical our company is and our product is, you were still able to bring some tongue twisters like rotor on a motor. So following in that vein, from rotor to motor, we will now bring it to the voter. And therefore, this is the right time to remind people that the voting procedure has begun. You have another, I think, 15 minutes more where the e-voting facility will be open for all members who have not yet cast their votes, though I'm assuming by now most people have. We will announce the votes through our company secretary on or before Ashutosh 14th May, correct?
Yes.
And we will also intimate to the stock exchange, upload it on NSDL website, and of course on the notice board of our company. And therefore, with your consent, the board members and I would now like to leave the meeting, and we wish all our members good health, safety, and as much as possible, follow what the Prime Minister says and spend on the economy rather than gold and reduce our fuel charge.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Jen.
With this, we conclude
Thank
the
you
meeting.
all.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Bye. Bye.